Welcome back everybody to another A to Z of property strategies. We ran the A to Z of property strategies for a whole year and we thought we could get to the end, but we're still going. So welcome back, David. Thank you for hanging in there. You've recovered from your New Year's bash, and that wasn't with Irma. That was the drink you had. Socially distanced, of course. So what are we on today?
Well, we're still only on the letter S, so there's still a mighty way to go. This S is for show home.
Ooh. Now, builders develop show homes to sell their sites off. So how is that a property strategy, I ask?
Well, interestingly enough, once they've sold off their site, they are in their heads and emotionally working on the next site, if not even physically. And so this show home becomes a bit of an embarrassment and something they want to shift quickly. So at the very least, you should be able to get all the furniture free from the show home, and be aware that it's going to be a nice one. It's going to be at the entrance of the development. It's going to have a nice garden and it'll probably be detached where all the others aren't. So it's going to be a nicer calibre of thing. And if they're really pushed for time, if it's coming up, for example, to the end of their financial year or something like this, they want to get that one onto the accounts for that year as a sale. So you might even get a little bit of a discount as well.
That's actually quite a clever tactic there, that is. I love that. I mean, going back to our N for negotiating, that's a good negotiation tactic. Picking your timing, finding the pain point, and getting in there and getting a deal. I know a few people who've bought show homes. Now I understand why. What a smart deal. Now, have you ever bought a show home, or are you not a new buildy type person?
I'm not a new buildy type person. I'm a person who likes sort of old Victorian things with twiddly bits that I can polish. So you see, show homes tend not to have those.
Yeah, I'm not a show home person, but also I'm not a fan of the Victorian stuff. They tend to be very low EPC ratings, and you have to spend a fortune on them, maintaining them as well. So, yeah,
there is
one of them
things. But having said that, the post-war builds or whatever won't be around in 150 years to spend any money maintaining them because they're not built in the same kind of way.
No, absolutely, I would agree with you on that. And the bank, which I'll just drop a video up here to the development case studies, that was actually built in 1892. So it actually is a Victorian building, and we've had to spend an awful lot of time and money insulating it because they didn't have insulation in those days. And yeah, we've got a decent EPC now, but the problem is it involves spending a lot of money. You can only do that on a major refurb. You can't do it just as part of a decoration project because you're insulating the walls typically on the inside or the outside.
Yes, there are these. Well, one of the things I used to do, there's this plasterboard which then has thick kind of what do we call it? Not polystyrene, but it's kind of
insulating board,
pink colour, whatever it is. You see. And this is why I always have a problem in builders merchants, because I say, can I have that sort of pink stuff with some, in the way that I just described it? They go, what? And you know, yeah.
Jabber board.
Ah, well, now I'm talking to a man who knows. So there we are. And talking of, because you know I go on tangents, but this is quite a good one. Irma was reading the Financial Times the other week, and they were talking about the property market in Japan and why property investors don't go for property there in the same way that they do here in the UK. So I'll just throw that in. Have you any idea why that might be?
No.
Well, I didn't know either, so don't worry until last weekend. So apparently the Japanese properties are not built to last a long time. They may be built very solidly, but every 50 years they knock them down. So they depreciate rapidly, and it's not something you'd buy for a kind of a long-term hold.
Is that because they often have trouble with things like tsunamis around the coastal regions?
It might be, or maybe fashions and tastes change rapidly there. I don't know. The article didn't say that, but it just said why property isn't, because you know we know that in certain countries property is very attractive, like in the UK, and in other countries people don't really have a thing for it. And I thought that was quite interesting as to the sort of rationale in the case of Japan.
Yeah, clever.
So there we are. We throw in a little bonus. Before we move on now...
The bonus Japanese show home for you.
Well, it is. Well, it is, but you might be better off doing that one on a rent-to-rent. Now, next is an area where I don't have a huge amount of experience myself, but it's the area of social housing.
Ooh, well, social housing comes in many, many, many flavours, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, we have a good friend who's a writer for YPN magazine, a very popular trade magazine, and he specialises very much in the social housing. Very clever niche way of doing it, what we call the 2+2 type strategy, where you perhaps have a family with some children, and one adult might have partnered with another adult who has some other children, and both class or qualify for separate allowances living together. Or it could be a different generation, like a mother lives with a daughter and granddaughter all in the same house. So that's one variant on it. There's another variant of social housing, which is to provide accommodation directly to those who are on welfare benefits and not trying to rack and stack and get double income in. You then have contracting directly with providers of social housing, such as housing associations or councils, which is quite popular, and you have a contract directly with the council, for example, and they are effectively renting your property because they issue a license to the tenant. So it's a different kind of agreement that you have again. So there's various different flavours of social housing. I've touched on them all briefly without deep diving. If you want us to deep dive, drop us some comments below on the specifics that you're looking for, and we can perhaps help you out there. But on that note, David, where does that take us now?
Well, that takes us to something that isn't a million miles away from show homes, where we started off today's thing, because this is staging. And I once got a staging kit from a guy who'd done show homes. He lent it to me for a house I was selling, and I discovered, shock horror, that the staging furniture was actually smaller than it should have been to make his show home look bigger. So it wasn't. It was like doll's house furniture, if you like, slightly bigger, slightly somewhere in between real furniture and doll's house furniture, but it wasn't full sized. So isn't that interesting? But staging.
That's quite interesting. I mean, when we run events, we often have staging as well, don't we? We're not talking that sort of staging, though, are we?
Probably not, unless you're, I don't know, selling a home to a rock star, in which case you might want to put a microphone and a drum kit in the living room. But in the normal course of events, we stage properties to sell them, and we're capitalising on the fact that buyers don't have as much imagination, perhaps, as we do. So we're just suggesting a way that a property might look for them, and it's when the estate agent photographer comes around, he's not just photographing 4 bare walls, which, let's be honest, look pretty much the same from one house to the next, and we're putting all the twiddly bits in. And I've very often had buyers who've bought properties from me who've come to me afterwards and said, you know, that's a really cool idea, I'll think of doing that. And these can be the deciding factor that you know, that they've just seen 5 very similar homes, of which 4 of them just had bare walls and carpets, and one of them is exactly like their dream home. So, you know, which one are they going to go for?
Absolutely. Well, I always stage properties either to sell or to let. And you talked about rock stars and staging. Well, here's a little claim to fame for you out there. One of my properties, one of my more upmarket properties, I had an X Factor star come round to view with his grandma to look at it, and they loved it to bits. So I shall say no more at that in the interest of privacy, but there's rock stars, staging, and getting it all into one sentence, didn't I do well? If you think I did well to actually bring Rockstar stages and staging a house all into one sentence, drop me a comment below. If you think it was rubbish, drop me a comment and blow me a raspberry. If not, give us a thumbs up, a like, a share, and tell David he's has to put up with a lot, and he's put up with a lot for the last year recording, and he's got a whole year ahead of him of recording too. So,
and I've just learned something as a DJ that I didn't know, that rock stars have grandmothers. Do you know, you never kind of see them up on stage, do you? So isn't it extraordinary?
I thought it was dead sweet that he came round with his grandma, because the two of them lived together.
That's lovely. It's very, very nice. It's very, very nice.
On that note, we better say goodbye to our viewers, because we've come to the end of another glorious episode. So thank you for staying tuned. Hit subscribe. Hit playlist
that other one?
to watch some of the other ones. And if you also want to see, we've got some, well, a whole range of videos from forecasts and predictions for 2021 through to planning, through to conveyancing, building control and development case studies. Stay tuned. Look forward to seeing you soon. Goodbye from me.
And goodbye from me.